Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today, we're going to be looking at Friends Season 1, Episode 3, The One with the Thumb. And if you're new to these videos, then hi, my name is Scott, and I'll be taking a look at the pop culture references that pop up throughout the episode. Because I feel there are a lot of jokes that are based on pop culture references, whether it be contemporary or from the past. And if you don't quite understand what that reference is, because we've all had different upbringings, then you may miss out on what that joke actually is. So hopefully with these videos and a little bit of explanation, you'll have a little bit more background. And then when you watch that episode on your next personal watch through, you'll be able to appreciate the joke even more. And once we're done with the pop culture references, then I'll have a look at a little bit of select trivia. And then at the end, I'll do my review on that episode. And if you're thinking, oh, Scott, you sound a little bit different today compared to your other videos, it's because I'm not very well. It was my birthday yesterday. This was one of my presents here. My Stitch Squashmallow, who will always be in the background now. And I would love to say that it was because I was partying so much that I've strained my voice and I can't speak anymore, but no, I think I've picked up a cold. But I was determined to stick to this schedule, so I'm powering through. Hopefully there aren't too many references today so that I can actually give my throat a chance to rest. You watch, this will be the one of the entire show that'll have like the most. It'll be like 3 references per minute or something. Ugh. So yes, rather than dragging on this intro any further, let's jump into it. The subplot of this episode is that Phoebe has had an issue with her bank. Basically, they deposited $500 into a checking account by accident. She then complained about it, and the bank have gotten back to her with this response.
We're sorry for the inconvenience and hope you'll accept this football phone as our free gift. Do you believe this? Now I have $1,000 and a football phone.
So as lovely as it may be that she now has a free $1,000 in her account, she also has this football phone. So this may seem completely random nowadays, but it actually harkens back to a trope of financial establishments giving away electrical appliances that has become known as the bank toaster. So basically, back in the day, there would be these incentives to sign up to a new account, and banks would give away these random appliances such as toasters, alarm clocks, or other kind of random things that you wouldn't necessarily buy yourself, but you get it as a gift and you go, oh, well, that's nice that I now have a salad spinner whilst I'm also opening a checking account. And this idea of giving a free gift continued for many years and, of course, was parodied in media, this scene being one example of it. And if you'll permit me, I'm just going to read out this quote by Eddie Elfenbein on an article for Business Insider that describes this phenomena. Banking has changed dramatically over the last 30 years, but that golden age wasn't so golden. The reason banks offered toasters to new accounts wasn't due to bad marketing, but due to outdated regulations. That's the only way they could pass cost savings on to depositors. Free toasters from banks weren't some happy relic of a bygone era, they were one of the reasons why the modern financial world came about. Interest rates were regulated, and you couldn't even pay interest on a checking account. Also, bank locations were far less convenient to today's world with ubiquitous ATMs. Now, maybe it's because of my lack of financial knowledge, or maybe it's because I'm not very well. I don't understand a word of that. But what I do get is that the giving out of random items was a thing. And so when Phoebe pulls out this football phone, it is something that of the time you'd go, oh gosh, that makes a lot of sense. That's ridiculous because, as I say, banks would just give out random things. And to receive a football phone, you would not go out and purchase a football phone, but you would have it on the side because it sparks a conversation, doesn't it? If someone came around and was like, why do you have this? Oh, well, I got it from my bank. And you go, do you know what then? I might sign up with that bank because I want something random as well. I think I'd just rather have the $1,000 in my account, to be honest. I mean, if my bank is watching, then please, because that would be lovely. It's nearly halfway through the episode before we have our first pop culture reference, and it's in relation to Monica's new beau, Alan. He's come round to meet everyone, and they love him. And as they're laying on praise, this is what Joey and Phoebe say.
You know what was great? The way his smile was kind of crooked.
Yes, like the man in the shoe.
What shoe?
From the nursery rhyme. There was a crooked man who had a crooked smile who lived in a shoe for a while.
So I think Alan...
So even though this is an English nursery rhyme, I've never heard of it before. And I always wondered, why does Phoebe trail off and lose confidence? Why does Ross go, Anyway, and why does the audience laugh? It's because Phoebe is recalling it wrong. The nursery rhyme is called There Was a Crooked Man, and it was first recorded in 1842, and there's no mention of a shoe. I'm going to read it out to you right now. There was a crooked man, and he went a crooked mile. He found a crooked sixpence against a crooked stile. He bought a crooked cat, which caught a crooked mouse, and they all lived together in a little crooked house. As you can see, there's no mention of a shoe whatsoever, and that's because Phoebe is mixing her nursery rhymes. She's got half of There Was a Crooked Man, and also There Was an Old Woman Who Lived in a Shoe. And now I will read that one to you. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and whipped them all soundly and put them to bed. That's lovely, innit? So yeah, Phoebe, seeing Alan's crooked smile, thinks, oh, this is the nursery rhyme, but she's got it wrong. She's mixing them up. I would go into the history of the nursery rhyme and the historical relevance of it and who it's meant to represent within British history, but I gotta save my instrument, so maybe we'll just move on to the next one. And still, the praise for Alan is being layered on.
Yeah, I'd marry him just for his David Hasselhoff impressions alone.
You know I'm going to be doing that at parties, right?
David Hasselhoff, or as he is known, The Hoff, is an American actor, singer, and TV personality who has appeared in so many projects in his 5-decade career that he holds the world record for being the most watched man on TV. He got his break in the 70s in The Young and the Restless, which was followed with him playing the lead, Michael Knight, in Knight Rider. But arguably his most recognizable role, and the one that is referenced in the scene, is him in Baywatch. Starting out in the late 80s, the show was about a bunch of lifeguards as they patrolled the beaches of Los Angeles and later Hawaii. The show was actually cancelled after its first season, but David Hasselhoff, who played the lead role of Mitch Buchanan, had such faith in the show that he bankrolled its revival, and it was very successful, running for another 10 seasons and being one of the most watched shows on television, pulling weekly numbers of 1.1 billion viewers. And the impression that Chandler is doing in the scene, well, as you can see here, is doing that sort of slow motion run-in. Well, let's just take a look at the intro of Baywatch. There is David Hasselhoff doing some slow motion running. And so, there you go. Gotta say, being an actor myself, I can think of much worse jobs than being paid to run around on beaches all day. Like, that would be so lush, because the British climate, ain't it? I mean, you can hear that it's not good. Let's carry on. So it's the next day, and the gang have gone to play a game of baseball, and they've won. And it's all because of this episode's golden child, Alan. And of course, the compliments keep on coming.
How is that possible?
Alan?
He was unbelievable. He was like that Bugs Bunny cartoon where Bugs was playing all the positions, right? But instead of Bugs, it was first base Alan, second base Alan, first base Alan.
So though the joke is fine by itself, I just thought I'd give you some context on it. Ross is referring to a 1946 Warner Brothers cartoon called Baseball Bugs. And as I'm sure you can guess, Bugs Bunny is the lead character in it, and he's playing a game of baseball. He gets dragged into the game kind of against his own will, and he single-handedly has to play against these big hulkish brutes. And in typical Bugs Bunny fashion, there's a lot of hijinks and ridiculousness. And you know what? I'm just going to show you the clip right here.
Attention, there's been a slight change in the teetotaler lineup. Catching, Bugs Bunny. Left field, Bugs Bunny. Right field, Bugs Bunny. Pitching, Bugs Bunny. Third base, Bugs Bunny. Center field, Bugs Bunny. First base, Bugs Bunny. Shortstop, Bugs Bunny. Second base, Bugs Bunny.
And so there you go. Now you can see what's playing in Ross's head when he does that wonderful reenactment. We're out on the street and Phoebe is giving Lizzie some alphabet soup, amongst other things.
I also have something else for you.
Saltines?
No, but would you like $1,000 and a football phone?
Okay, so this is just a quick one here. If you're American, you're going to be like, why is he covering this? It's because we don't have them in England. This is a foreign thing to us. And so for anybody who doesn't know what they are, wherever in the world you may be, saltines are crackers, basically. They are soda crackers. Some of them contain yeast, however, many of them are unleavened. They're usually sprinkled with coarse salt, and they're good for filling you up. So a lot of the times you'd crunch them into soups and stews in order to add a bit of bulk, or if you're not very well, it's actually good to eat them because it'll be giving you a sense of being full without anything too harsh in your stomach. And so yeah, there you go, saltines, which would go lovely in the alphabet soup sans vowels, except the Y, because, sometimes why. In this episode, Chandler started smoking again after 3 years, but now he's giving up again and he's a little bit irritable. Also, now the light is on in the background. You can tell I'm not very well because I completely forgot to switch it on. So at least there's now a nice little bit of backdrop. And my apologies for not being in the rest of the video. Let's just get on to explaining the reference, shall we?
Lamb chop.
How old is that sock? If I had a sock on my hand for 30 years, it'd be talking too.
Okay, I think it's time to change somebody's nicotine patch.
As hinted to, Lamb Chop is a sock puppet of a sheep, created by puppeteer and ventriloquist Shari Lewis, and I found this description of Lamb Chop that perfectly encapsulates her. She's been described as a 6-year-old girl, very intuitive and very feisty, a combination of obstinacy and vulnerability. You know how they say fools rush in where wise men fear to go? Well, Lamb Chop would rush in, then scream for help. The combo of Lamb Chop and Shari Lewis first made their appearance in the 1950s on Captain Kangaroo, and they were received very well. So much so that they even had their own show, the Shari Lewis Show, in the early 60s. In the decades after, Lamb Chop was a staple in children's entertainment, and even after the death of Shari Lewis in 1998, her daughter, Mallory Lewis, took up the mantle and carried on giving Lamb Chop a life, and still to this very day, Lamb Chop appears in social media videos and other types of entertainment. And so yeah, for all intents and purposes, there has been a hand inside an anthropomorphized cheap puppet for the last 30 years, but let's not try and lose the whimsy, shall we? We're not all going through nicotine withdrawal, are we? And so there we go, folks. That was every pop culture reference explained in Friends Season 1, Episode 3, the one with the thumb. Thankfully, there weren't actually that many pop culture references because I'm pretty tired. I mean, I know you've just tuned into this video because you wanted to watch something about a TV show that you enjoy and you don't want me just whinging on about my health, but oh, woe is me. Put all the sympathy in the comments down below, please. Get the violins out, would you? Thanks. So I've been keeping a running tally of how many references pop up in each episode, and I do just want to make a correction because I miscounted how many references there were in the first episode. I originally said that there were only 10 pop culture references in the pilot episode, where in fact there were 13. So I have updated those numbers on the next screen. As you can see, Season 1, Episode 1 has 13 references in it, Episode 2 has 8, and this episode, number 3, has 6. So the rankings are unchanged. In third place as of now is Season 1, Episode 3 with 6 references explained. Even though it's only 3 episodes in, you can sort of see a pattern of decline, and I think as we carry on, we may see that more because as it establishes itself as a show and the comedy within the characters and their interpersonal relationships, it will rely less on outside jokes and references, but we'll see. There may be some that there are a lot more in, there may be some where it just bucks the trend completely. I'm waiting for the day where we go through and there is 0. That will be a very interesting outlier. I'm waiting to see when that will be. But enough with the pop culture references now. Now on to a little bit of trivia. So this is the first appearance of Joey and Chandler's apartment, which was not shown in the pilot episode or in episode 2. And thank goodness we finally got there. I have to say, of the 2 apartments, I do think it's a tough one. Of the 2 apartments, I'm not sure which one I do prefer. I was about to say I think I prefer the boys' apartment, but I don't know if that's the case because Monica's apartment, I really like the color scheme and I love her kitchen. It is so full of knickknacks and all different types of things. With the boys' apartment, there's a lot of cultural things on the wall. So there's a lot more posters, a lot more decorations. You can see that they really enjoy movies and TV shows and blasts from the past. There's actually something a little bit sparse about the boys' apartment. I think it's the coloration of the walls and the floor. There's something which seems a little bit empty about it. And I've seen that sometimes. It seems not as lived in. Whereas Monica's, there's a lot more warmth to it. And I think that's the color of the walls, the wooden beams, the flooring. There's something, and all the throws and things. There's something which is a lot more homely. And the lads' apartment seems a bit more, I don't know, kind of like making do. But it still does have its lovely bits. And we get to explore it more, of course, but this was the first time that we got to see it 3 episodes in. So welcome to the lads' apartment. A Toronto Blue Jays baseball hat is visible in Chandler's office. Matthew Perry held both Canadian and American citizenship and was raised in Canada's capital city of Ottawa. He is also a Toronto Blue Jays fan. I can see how the conversation went about because Chandler isn't Canadian. So they were like, we want to decorate your little cubicle. What can we do? Matthew Perry went, well, hey, gotta represent. Put my Toronto Blue Jays cap in there because I'm a big fan. Let's just get them in the corner there. Give them some respect. Put some mustard on their name right there. Fair enough. I appreciate that. Chi-Chi the dog Monica and Ross talk about is later referenced in Season 8, Episode 18, the one in Massapequa. Monica tries to make her parents cry for their 35th wedding anniversary. I remember that coming up. I do remember that coming up. I'm not going to show you the clip now or reference it now. We'll get to it when we get to Season 8, Episode 18. So in like 5 years' time, I will do a callback to this episode. So watch out for that. Chandler agrees to quit smoking after Phoebe tells him, if you never smoke again, I'll give you $7,000. He does, however, later go on to smoke in 5 episodes over the course of the show. The one with the ski trip, the one with the hypnosis tape, the one where Rachel smokes, the one with Phoebe's birthday dinner, and the one where Chandler gets caught. Taking this into account, since he agreed to Phoebe's deal, he therefore should return her $7,000. Now, when it comes to jokes like this, I always think it's a real missed opportunity that something doesn't get referenced later down the line, because it would be lovely if in one of those episodes where he is smoking, there's a callback to this deal. And she's like, well, you got to pay me back the money. Or like, whoop, that $7,000's going somewhere else now. And I feel the same way about a joke in The Office US. There's a bit where Dwight is shunning Andy and he says the shun will last for 5 years. And I always felt it was such a missed opportunity that 5 seasons after that, so obviously season 9, there wasn't a bit where Dwight goes, and now the shun has been lifted. Of course, you forget these. I can imagine they're writing episodes, 20 odd episodes for each season over the years. Things are going to get lost. But I feel it's a shame that the shunning didn't get referenced. And I feel it's a shame that the $7,000 didn't get mentioned again, because that would just be a nice little callback to bring it back round. Do you know what I mean? Now, this one is insane. The episode's subplot is similar to an incident in 2005 when a woman sued a San Jose, California Wendy's when she allegedly found a severed finger in her chili. So, of course, the title of the episode is the one with the thumb because Phoebe finds a thumb in a can of soda. And then I read up about this incident that happened in this Wendy's. This woman said she found a severed finger in her chili con carne that she got from Wendy's. Oh, there was a big thing about it. She went to sue them and all this type of stuff. Wendy's lost $12 million in profits because nobody wants to go near it because, hey, there's severed fingers within the chili. Basically, it was all made up. She had gotten a severed finger from her husband. Her husband had got it from somewhere else. She then cooked the finger herself and placed it in the chili and said she was eating it and bit down on the finger. She then ended up going to prison for it. So the moral of this story is you've really got to season correctly any severed appendages. Otherwise, people will be able to tell that it's not actually from what's been cooked. That's not the moral's not to fraud, I suppose. But hey, got to try and make bank somehow, ain't you? I mean, a severed finger. Ugh. But just thinking about the thumb, though we never got to see it, there's one little bit which I absolutely love, and it's just a sound effect. When Phoebe opens the can, you can hear it bobbing about. Just take a listen. Like, that for me, I've always found so much worse than actually seeing a severed thumb floating, because you can just hear that sort of, and you just know it's in there, it's right up. That is the perfect sound effect for it. So whoever was doing sound effects, whoever's doing Foley for that, they nailed it, because I genuinely believe there is a thumb in that can, purely on the sound effect. Oh, imagine if you'd taken a sip. Horrid. And so that was all the trivia for this episode, and now just my little review on the episode that's just played. I think that this episode is somewhat of an outlier compared to other episodes, because the way they go about talking about dating is something that is very accessible and something that isn't really brought up or played on in later episodes, in later seasons. Because the way that the episode opens, they talk very candidly, very openly about what it's like to date. They're talking about the dating language of, oh, if they say this, they mean this. If they say that, they mean that. And growing up and going into the dating world, there's a lot of head nods. You go, yeah, that is absolutely correct. That is spot on. That is well observed. And there's something about the fact that they are talking very generically about this that really makes it a lot more, as I said before, accessible, because later on, those 6 friends become obviously very important. They are the pillars of the show. And so anyone who they see it's a big deal. Anyone that they date, it's a huge deal because, you're introducing a new person within this friends group. There has to be something special about them to earn their place within this tight little group that we've built up when we've learned their history and their past and their relationships and their family and all of that type of stuff. There has to be something very special about this person coming in. So thinking down the line, characters like Kathy, characters like Mike, all these different people, like there has to be something about them to be brought into the fold. But when they're just talking about dating, like we never learn who this person is that Phoebe dated. We don't know the name. We don't know anything about him. We just know that dating is a thing. And I feel it opens it up a lot more because there's something about every sitcom that the general public has to sort of latch onto, and sometimes it can be difficult. So like not everybody can relate to The Office because not everybody's worked in an office. Not everybody's worked in that type of situation. Not everybody can relate to Modern Family because not everybody's rich with a close-knit family. Big Bang Theory, not everybody can relate because not everybody lives with roommates who are in the science community. So with Friends, there's something rather accessible about it because they are kind of just everyday people. You've got a brother and sister relationship, you've got old college friends, you've got all this. Their jobs are a little bit more accessible. You know, one's an actor, one works in an office, one works in a museum, one's a chef, that type of stuff. But when they start to establish their histories and start to establish who they are a lot more, you become more detached from them. Instead of being able to relate to them and be part of their fold, as seasons go on, it becomes a lot more detached and you're just observing them rather than going through it with them. And that's why I've always found that this episode is one of the episodes that really brings you in, really brings you into the fold because we can relate. Those who have been in the dating game can really relate to the things that they're saying. That's sort of advice about dating these nameless characters because, not every date has to be a life-changing connection. Sometimes you do just date, in order to go through the numbers kind of thing, because you've got to just be able to meet people in order to find someone. Do you know what I mean? Rather than putting so much emphasis. And as it goes on, as I said before, I am going around in circles because I'm very tired. But as I've said before, like when they do meet someone, you know that person's going to be around for a while because, oh, look, it's Paul Rudd. Okay. Like they're going to be in it for a while. Oh, look, it's this actor who we recognize from these other, it's Gavin. It's, you know, we know these people. We recognize them from other shows. They're going to have a big impact within this person's life. But instead, it's just the genericness of it. And I find that genericness of it something that is really approachable, really accessible, and really relatable. And this is one of the episodes that, I just find it's a lot more, as I've grown up as well, because obviously I was watching these shows when I was a kid, but as I've grown up into an adult who dates, specifically this episode, I found it a lot more of a relatable, I feel part of that. I feel like I could be part of this conversation. And it's kind of like the same with Sex and the City. There are a lot of episodes, of course, not the big storylines where they're dating established characters for long periods of time and those sort of escapades and that, but the hoops that they jump through and the different encounters that they have, you know, many of the characters have throughout the course of the series. A lot of people can relate to those things, go, I can take that and put this here, that. I recognize that. I've lived through that. And I find that this is one of the things when they're talking about it at the very beginning, but also as they talk about it throughout as well. And the breakup between, it's not the breakup between Alan and Monica, but it's the breakup between Monica and her friends, because the way that they all go, oh gosh, is it us? Can we just carry on? Like, I'm sure we all recognize that in some way. And it being such a generic, 5 people going, no, please make this relationship work. Like, they're playing on cliches that do exist and exist for a good reason, because I'm sure we've all at one point gone through something like that, either been the one to beg for a relationship not to end or the one to end the relationship while the other person is begging. Oh gosh, it's all a game, isn't it? But moving on from that rambling, because it was just not coherent at all. I can't wait to look back at this in editing and be like, what the heck was I talking about for so long? It made no sense. So my apologies if you've watched all that. One thing that's odd is that these first few episodes in the first season, they wanted to introduce longer term characters. So like in the pilot episode, we see one of Monica's chef buddies, and then we see another one. This one is Paula, but she only appears for this one episode. And it's really bizarre that they sort of wanted to introduce new characters into the mix that they just never carried on with. We never see her again. We never hear her mentioned again. But she had such a vibe. She had such an energy behind her. And that was it. And I can sort of understand it, because they're still wanting to establish these 6 characters. It's only the 3rd episode, don't forget. They want to establish the histories behind these 6 characters, but I do find it bizarre that we got these little introductions to their outside lives to never hear from them again. And we see that as we go through. We see that in Chandler's job as well. The one in, I think it's where Nana dies, and we're at his work, and we get to see some of his work colleagues, to never see them again. They never get referenced again. And it's bizarre, because it would be nice for them to be recurring characters, just for one, a little bit of continuity. Later down the line, we do see recurring characters from outside, but they have much bigger storylines. And it's not necessarily that. I don't think every character needs to have a big storyline, because obviously, when there's a fan favorite, you want to introduce them and keep them in the show a lot more by giving them subplots and storylines. But I just think the odd appearance of people keeps this world alive. And that's what they did with Gunther. Like, Gunther kept popping up in the background just as an extra. Then they gave him some lines, but then they gave him storyline. He's in love with Rachel. He has a history with Phoebe. Like, all of this type of stuff, which is lovely. And it was great to give him that little slice in that world, but kind of unnecessary as well, because sometimes you just want people to be there to be like, oh yeah, there is reality, there's an outside world to these things. And so yeah, just this one appearance of Paula I find so odd that never brought up again. And we very rarely see within, actually this may, if I'm remembering correctly, this is actually the last time we see in that particular restaurant, because in season 2 she gets fired and picks up a job elsewhere. But I think this might be the last time we visit that restaurant. Iridium is where she worked. I think it might be the last time we see her in that restaurant. Just something that I noticed that I find very bizarre, these characters popping up. Because imagine you as that actress. I've got this role, a good few lines, I've got a good few jokes popping up in this new TV show to never be brought up again. A bizarre concept, really. And just as a question as well, who else takes the distance from the thumb to the finger as fact? Because that is imprinted in my head. And now I'm very conscious about the fact that I don't want to show my hands, lest I'm digging a hole. Let's just end it there, shall we? Folks, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for being here. I think I need to have a good sleep now, because I'm not coherent. And when I come back to watch this, I'm just going to realize how much I was meandering through nonsense. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for putting up with it. You are proper good uns for making it this far. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, and the comment section is open down below. Make sure to comment on any pop culture references that you did get or any that you didn't get, and you go, oh, actually, thank you for explaining that. I didn't understand what that was. Now I've got some context. I'll enjoy that joke a lot more. And if you want to make sure you don't miss out on any other future videos, whether it be for Friends or Gilmore Girls or any other shows that'll be coming out later down the line, make sure to hit the subscribe button, because then it'll just pop up. You won't miss out. You don't want to have to go searching for me. That takes too much effort. It'll just pop up. You'll be there. It's all grand. And it helps me out as well, because it makes me realize how many people out there actually want to watch these videos. So yeah. Oh gosh, I'm just rambling, aren't I? Okay, time for some more paracetamol. My friends, thank you so much for being here. Luck and more to you all. Catch you next time. Catch you next time.